Hi, I'm Melissa Cobb. Come fly with AOPA. Well, one of my favorite parts of flying is landing on grass strips, and it's particularly fun in the Cessna 170 with its spring landing gear. It just really makes every landing really smooth and makes me look good. But whether you fly a tail dragger or a nose wheel airplane, you can land on grass too. I mean, there are some immaculate grass strips out there, perfect for Moonies and Cirruses and aircraft with wheel pants. So AOPA Senior Vice President of Media and Marketing, Colin Stagnito, gives us some real-world tips for landing on grass runways.
Landing on a grass strip is a lot of fun. And someday, you might get an invitation like I did to land on a private grass strip. It was short, with trees at both ends. I'd never been there before, but one thing you can do is scope out the field from a satellite view.
Now the first trick is to find this airstrip, which is in the middle of trees next to a river, but obscured by trees here.
It might not be in your GPS database, so make sure your pilotage is up to snuff. And get advice from someone who knows the airport well.
Have you ever been here before?
I have not, so I'll take any advice you've got.
Okay, so when you fly the left downwind, you can easily lose sight of the runway, but fly out over the lake and turn your base off of this kind of spit on the far side of the lake. And then you'll just fly up the dogleg. There's a little carved out dogleg, and plan on landing on the hump.
So the most important part of this landing, any grass strip landing really, but particularly this one where the runway is only 2,100 feet long, is speed control. So keeping that 60 miles an hour, keeping it slow, touching down right at the end of the runway, getting back on the control yoke for this tailwheel aircraft, just planting it and making sure we stop.
Perfect, very nice, Colin.
What a blast.
Thanks for the tips, Colin. Well, another exhilarating experience unique to the winter time is landing on ice runways. I've never landed on an ice runway, but I have landed a Super Cub on a frozen lake in Michigan, and that was absolutely amazing. Now, one thing a lot of pilots on the East Coast look forward to is landing at Alton Bay Ice Runway in New Hampshire. However, this year, the organizers have said it's not going to open this year. They said that warmer temperatures, really windy weather that's been keeping the water flowing, and higher than normal water levels in the lake are preventing the ice from getting thick enough for aircraft to safely land. And this has happened before. They don't get to open every year, but it is said to be one of the only charted ice runways in the lower 48. So we'll have to see if we have better luck in the winter season next year. Was the winter weather not cooperating where you are either? Why not use the time on the ground to brush up on weather? So the FAA has recently released an aviation weather handbook, and they consolidated all the weather information from a bunch of different advisory circulars into one. It'd be a great time to use this downtime to brush up on the weather and be ready to go next time you got a good weather day. And if you'd rather just fly somewhere warmer for the winter, how about Arizona? You can join us at the AOPA fly-in at the Buckeye Air Fair. It's going to be in Buckeye, Arizona, February 17th through the 19th. And if you'd like to come, we'd love to have you volunteer to help us behind the scenes. We're looking for airside and showside volunteers. And if you're an airside volunteer, the really cool thing is that you get firsthand experience of working a flight line at an aviation event, and you get up close with aircraft, and you're among the first to welcome pilots into this amazing event. If you're interested, you can learn more and sign up at the link in the description below. Former AOPA Editor-in-Chief and AOPA Live This Week host Tom Haynes recently had a big honor. On January 20th, he was inducted into the Living Legends of Aviation for his extraordinary accomplishments in aviation. Now, Tom is only the third AOPA leader to be inducted into the Living Legends of Aviation, and he was inducted as a way to honor his 37 years as an aviation journalist. And 34 of those years were at AOPA. Well, congratulations, Tom. I can't think of anyone more deserving. Well, now I'd like to tell you about a young woman who has had her own extraordinary aviation accomplishment. It's Kaya Armstrong. She's legally blind, and she went through 20 hours of flight instruction, and she flew from Arizona to Washington, D.C. with her flight instructor, and she says that that was the experience of a lifetime.
Well, originally I didn't think it was possible. I couldn't see, so I was talking with my mom, talking about things I'd never be able to do, which was drive a car and fly a plane. And literally 1 week later, we found out through the Foundation for Blind Children they would be hosting an event this year called Flight for Sight, which is where they would choose one blind person to pilot a plane from Phoenix, Arizona to Washington, D.C. And I turned to my mom and I told her I had to do that so I could prove to myself and to everybody else that nothing's impossible. I'd never been in a plane before, any kind of plane. So for people that were interested in this, they scheduled a first flight day, which is where they took all the people that were interested in applying for this position up in a small plane just to get the experience and to see what it would be like. And I fell in love from the very first moment. I remember going up and there aren't words to describe how amazing it was. Sure, I couldn't see all of the details, but I could feel everything that was going on, and it was the most amazing experience of my life. I've been training for the past 8 months in both ground school and in-flight training. I had ground school 2 to 3 times a week, and then I had in-flight training every other week for the past 8 months, which I believe totaled up to over 20 hours of training, it's been intense, but it's been so very worth it. Leading up to all the training, we had to make a few adaptations to what normal sighted people would use, just so I could have access to it. So for the ground school books, I'd have access to the PDF version, which my screen readers would read back to me, while I also had it embossed in Braille. That way, if I just wanted to be able to read it myself. And then I had a poster of the inside of the cockpit. So while most people would just be able to look at it, I had to sit with one of my instructors and braille out what each individual item on the cockpit was. And same for up in the air, learning how to turn the plane on timed and correct turns. That took a little bit, just learning how fast I needed to count, when I needed to start and stop counting, just to make sure I was going in the right direction every time. And that's what I have my co-pilot Tyler for. He reads everything that I can't read. So while I can see some, I can identify colors, but that's about it. So anything that pops up on the PFD and the screens inside and the dials, he reads back to me so I know what's going on. Well, it doesn't matter. Maybe you can't see and it'll take a little bit longer to train. You have to work twice as hard, but anything is possible. This proves that the only limits that we have are the ones we've given ourselves.
Well, way to go, Kaya, and I hope you are still finding excuses to get out there and go flying and then just enjoy the wonders of flight. Well, that's it for this week's episode of Fly with AOPA. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to like and subscribe to stay up to date with all our latest videos. And this week, we leave you with videos submitted from viewer Isaiah Steenberg. He's overflying Mammoth Lakes and Yosemite National Park. And be sure to send in your favorite flying videos at the link in the description. You just might see them on an upcoming show. And as always, if you're not already an AOPA pilot, we'd love for you to join us. Click the link at the end of the video to learn more. We'll see you next week.